Gospel lesson this morning is from Luke 16, verses 1 through 13, and it is where Jesus tells the parable of the shrewd manager. Jesus told his disciples, "There was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, 'What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer.' The manager said to him, 'What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses.' So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' 900 gallons of olive oil,' he replied. The manager told him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, 'How much do you owe?' 1,000 bushels of wheat,' he replied. He told him, 'Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Thanks be to God.
Talking about good at Breaking Bad, there's a show on, I was in its third or fourth season now, called Breaking Bad. Sherry and I watched the pilot of that. It's about a out-of-work high school chemistry teacher who, for a lot of good reasons, goes into manufacturing and selling meth. And, it's like a lot of shows right now that are about nice, ordinary, middle-class people winding up doing criminal things for a lot of good reasons. I didn't understand the good reasons, and I didn't like the character, so that's the last we watched of it. But he reminds me a little bit of our manager in today's parable. This guy, like Walter White, like the Enron executives, he's got two sets of books. He's got one book for looking and one book for shredding. And he reaches that point where he's discovered, and he winds up being not a nice guy. And Jesus seems to commend him. What is with this? I simply don't understand. One thing I do know, my friend Charlie and I were talking a lot this last couple of weeks, and we came to the realization that very few people, evil people, know they're evil. They simply do not sound like dishonest John. Kind of mad scientist, evil villain is just it's an image of our myth, our can't think of the word right now, of our melodramatic stories. In fact, here's what mostly happens.
There are two kinds of folks who sit around thinking about how to kill people: psychopaths and mystery writers. I'm the kind that pays better. Who am I? I'm Rick Castle. Castle. I really am ruggedly handsome, aren't I?
The problem with psychopaths is that they are mentally and emotionally crippled. 99.99% of them are incapable of doing really horrendous crimes, but really clever crimes. It takes a mystery writer or a TV writer to give us these shows that have these super villains come up with all these great ideas. You see, most of them are just like us in some ways. Most of them are, for one reason or another, just plain wrong.
So it's 1995. I'm in college. And a friend and I go on a road trip from Providence, Rhode Island to Portland, Oregon. And somewhere in the middle of South Dakota, I turn to my friend and I ask her a question that's been bothering me for 2,000 miles. What's up with the Chinese character I keep seeing by the side of the road? My friend looks at me totally blankly. And I'm like, you know, all the signs we keep seeing with the Chinese character on them. She just stares at me for a few moments. And then she cracks up because she figures out what I'm talking about. The famous Chinese character for picnic area. I have spent the last 5 years of my life thinking about situations exactly like this. Why we sometimes misunderstand the signs around us. I've spent the last 5 years thinking about being wrong. In fact, most of us do everything we can to avoid thinking about being wrong. Or at least to avoid thinking about the possibility that we ourselves are wrong. And the thing is, you know, the present tense is where we live. We go to meetings in the present tense. We go on family vacations in the present tense. So effectively, we all wind up kind of traveling through life sort of trapped in this little bubble of feeling very right about everything. So let me ask you guys something. How does it feel emotionally? How does it feel to be wrong? Dreadful. Thumbs down. Embarrassing. Okay, wonderful, great. Dreadful, thumbs down, embarrassing. Thank you. These are great answers. But they're answers to a different question. You guys are answering the question, how does it feel to realize you're wrong? Realizing you're wrong can feel like all of that, and a lot of other things, right? I mean, it can be devastating. But just being wrong doesn't feel like anything. You remember that Looney Tunes cartoon where there's this kind of pathetic coyote who's always chasing and never catching a roadrunner? In pretty much every episode of this cartoon, there's a moment where the coyote is chasing the roadrunner and the roadrunner runs off a cliff. But the thing is, the coyote runs off the cliff right after him. And what's funny is that the coyote's totally fine too. He just keeps running. Right up until the moment that he looks down and realizes that he's in midair. When we're wrong about something, not when we realize it, but before that, we're like that coyote after he's gone off the cliff and before he looks down. You know, we're already wrong. We're already in trouble, but we feel like we're on solid ground. So I should actually correct something I said a moment ago. It does feel like something to be wrong. It feels like being right.
It doesn't feel like something to be wrong. It feels like being right. That's where we are, and that's where this dishonest steward is. I don't know why he thought being dishonest was right. But when he figures it out, when he discovers he's going to get canned, he has to worry now about what am I going to do about this situation. I'm off the cliff, I'm looking down. Is there anything I can do to save myself? And he gets a clever idea. He calls in his boss's creditors. And he gives them a deal, a sneaky deal, under the table deal, hoping that that will make them hire him when he's out pounding the streets looking for employment. Now, I got a problem with that. With the other businessmen, wouldn't getting some kind of sneaky under-the-table deal from a manager of one businessman make you a little leery about him when he showed up on your doorstep? Don't you think that maybe he'll do the same thing to you as he did to his previous boss? But the manager, the boss, the owner of the business commends him. This knocks me out. He says, "Why, you clever little devil, you've greased the wheels for a new job as soon as I fire you." And Jesus goes on to say, the people of darkness are more clever with their worldly goods than we are. Jesus said, "I tell you, use worldly wealth to make friends for yourself, so that when it's gone, you will be welcomed into eternal homes." It still has a lot of cognitive dissonance in it, because the story just before this in Luke's gospel was about the lost son. And remember the story. The younger boy wanted his daddy to die, or at least give him his inheritance right now. And he ran off to a city far, far away, and he wasted his money, he wasted his wealth, entertaining friends and trying to buy their friendship. And as soon as the money was gone, the only home he wound up was a home for pigs. So what is Jesus talking about when he says you'll be welcomed into eternal homes? Well, I think the key word here is eternal. Remember these stories? They all come in a row. Bam, bam, bam. We've got the good shepherd and the lost sheep. We've got the woman and the lost coin. We've got the prodigal father and his lost sons. And now we have the manager and his lost job. And the stories all are not about shepherds or women or coins or sheep or sons or fathers or even management. They are about the kingdom of heaven. That's what Jesus is answering with these stories. What is the kingdom of heaven like? Why do you spend time with sinners? You eat with sinners. You eat with people who are unlike us. What in the world is going on? And Jesus is saying, this is what the kingdom of heaven is about. The kingdom of heaven is not about getting away with it. The kingdom of heaven is about joy. We forget that. We forget that. We think that faith has something to do with church, and church has something to do with religion, and religion is where you are serious and you never laugh. I know, even when we laugh in church anymore, there's the back of our head still thinks that we have to be serious. We have to wear black, like ladies out of the Victorian age, you know? And we have to be oh so religious. Preachers in particular. I read a book on how to become bishop without being religious. And he says, if you overhear an off-color joke, you're to kind of look at them with a look of superiority and say something like, well, I suppose that's funny for some people. Come on. We live in a world full of joy and laughter and excitement. And when we forget that in this building, we have forgotten the God who created us. Jesus was all about the joy of heaven. You see? In those stories, we have a sheep gets lost, and the shepherd goes way out of his way to find the sheep. He finds it, and he has so much joy that nothing is going to do but that he has a party. The coin gets lost, and the woman works hard sweeping the floor and burning up precious oil. And she finds it, and she's so excited and so full of joy that nothing will do but that they have a party. And the father's son leaves home, but the boy's coming home, and the father comes a-running while the boy is still a long ways off. And he is so full of joy that nothing's going to do but they have a party. And then the manager loses his job, and there's no party. The people of darkness live in the dark. People of the darkness are very clever. They have to be clever. You have to work hard, and you have to worry all night, every night, on and on and on, just to keep your head above water. And there is no party. The people of light are lighter. God's in control. And when we turn to God and when we move toward the kingdom of heaven, there is joy in our hearts, in heaven, all around us, and we can laugh and sing and enjoy ourselves because God is enjoying us. Because we are living in this world the way God wants us to be. So Jesus said, use your worldly wealth to make friends. What kind of friends? Well, how about those who are homeless? Helping them have a place to stay. Those who are hungry, helping them have something to eat. Those who are naked, helping them have something to wear. When we focus our wealth on the least of these, we are giving to Jesus the Christ. Now, there is a friend we need to make with our worldly worth, our worldly wealth. Because he will invite us, he does invite us then, into his eternal home. Thanks be to God.